The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. We want to welcome you to our webinar today. We are so excited to be learning about the Nectronic visual scheduling in Dynamics NAV. I know that a lot of our customers are really interested in this topic, so I'm just going to cover a couple of quick housekeeping items and then we'll get on our way. I just want to remind everyone that if you have any questions, feel free to type those into the question box. Everybody's muted just for ease of listening. Type any questions into the question box. I'll call them out, get them answered for you. Also, we are recording this webinar like we do every webinar that we have. So we will have the recording available later today on our ABC website. Of course, that's abc-computers.com. So without further ado, I want to introduce our presenter today, Martin. And Martin, I apologize. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Is it Karlowitz?
It's Karlovich, but you can just, Martin is perfectly fine.
There we go. All right. We'll just stick with Martin then. Martin, he is 44, married with 2 sons, and a self-proclaimed soccer addict. And we're excited to have him here today because he's the managing director of Nectronic, which is a software from Germany. They're an established software vendor. They specialize in developing software to intelligently visualize time-related resource-oriented scheduling data. And ABC Computers has partnered with Nectronic to market Nectronic's visual scheduling add-in for NAV in the United States. I know we're really excited about the functionality of this software. So Martin, without further ado, I am going to turn it right over to you.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for the kind introduction, and I think many people from the United States expect Germans to be soccer addicted, so I perfectly fall into this scheme. So good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me today, and Abby, thanks for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to today discuss with your clients the possibilities of how to efficiently achieve visual scheduling in Dynamics NAV. Just here from us from Technology Today, I will be around with you today. If you have any question, as said, just type them in the question pane and we get them answered right away. If you have questions afterwards, then either reach out to me or preferably reach out to your colleagues and contact persons at ABC Computers, because the team there is a great partner of us and very familiar with our products. So actually I thought to start the presentation with the takeaways, and for me for today there are really 3 things that I would hope that all of you keep in mind when moving to the next meeting today, and then if you feel these 3 things are kind of not enough, then I will give you 2 more things to remember. So actually the 3 things to keep in mind is that what you learn today is you will learn a lot about visual scheduling. So visual scheduling is what my company has been doing for a living the last 25 years. We've built a lot of software to achieve this. So our focus is really to keep the user in the driver's seat and to provide intelligent visual scheduling support, rather than getting the user out of the driver's seat, getting the system into the driver's seat, and then having everything scheduled by a machine that might be intelligent but nobody understands. When it comes to Dynamics NAV, we have chosen to provide our visual scheduling propositions as add-in solutions rather than add-on solutions. So our products, they are not attached to the outside of NAV. They don't live besides NAV, but our visual scheduling add-ins, they virtually live in NAV, and so they get fully integrated with Dynamics NAV, which we feel provides a significant user experience advantage for you guys. So the 3 things to remember is there's this German company with an MD who is a football or soccer addict, and what we're doing is developing visual scheduling software that and we provide this as add-ins for Dynamics NAV so that it can get fully integrated into the system. If you want to remember more things, then maybe the next important thing is that our products are built that they can that they work with the NAV standard, and they do not require any changes to the NAV standard, which in turn means that they can, as long as you work with the standard NAV, they can get implemented and installed very, very quickly. So it's a question of a day or less that you get everything up and running, as long as you work with standard NAV. And then the last thing, although obviously we believe in a productized approach, and although we believe in standards, we do not at all believe in one size fits it all. So we have dedicated products to support various standard scheduling processes that we found that exist in NAV. So we have a product to support production scheduling, we have a product to support project management, so which works with the jobs and the resource module in NAV, and we have a product to support service order dispatching. And I will briefly introduce all of them today later on when we look at the products themselves. So we're a German software company, as I said before. We're on the market for almost 40 years, and since then have been specialized on building software to build interactive planning diagrams. In the last 20-25 years, our focus had been on developing software to build interactive Gantt charts. We always have been doing this as a quite product-centric business, which means that the majority of my company's revenue is software licenses and maintenance. There is also a service part, but that is not that big as with other software companies. And this type of business, doing software product business, has enabled us to do really global business. So as of today, we serve a global market, and we do more than half of our revenue actually outside of Germany. And when I say outside of Germany, I just don't mean just that we do it in Europe or in the neighbor countries of Germany, but depending on the economic conditions, we do around a fifth to a fourth of the business in the United States, and up to 10% in Southeast Asia. So this is really a global business that we're doing with slightly more than 20 people located here in a very western part of Germany. So we are in a city, in a quite ancient city called Aachen, which has one of the most renowned technical universities here. And from here, as we serve a global market with our product. So our core product, and this product is also the foundation of what we do for NAV, is a product called Varchart X Gantt, which is a very proven and mature software product that we have been selling for almost 20 years to other software developers to help them build interactive Gantt chart. So our key product, our key conventional product, is a tool that we sell to other software developers that help them build charts like these. And so with this tool, you can do can achieve any kind of resource-oriented time-centric data visualization. That means that we have customers who use this technology for production scheduling applications, but we also have a lot of customers actually who use the same technology to build airport ground scheduling systems. So for a long time, our major customers have been software companies to integrate this functionality into their applications. We also worked with some really large enterprises, so with Fortune 500 companies, when they have their own development departments and when they have in-house developers tasked with building an internal scheduling system. And since more or less 2 years, we also take this tool and build ready-to-use, fully integrated add-ins for Dynamics NAV that we sell through Dynamics NAV partners like ABC Computers to NAV customers and users like you are. And so the interesting facet behind this is that a very old version of this development tool actually had been bought by Microsoft, which kind of we always feel that if you build tools for the software industry and if you have a client like Microsoft, then this gives a lot of credibility for the tool. So Microsoft bought this 10 years ago or more than 10 years ago in an old version and made our tool part of Dynamics NAV and also of Dynamics AX. And what Microsoft did is they built a quite bare-bone production scheduler for the NAV Classic client, which had been part of the product for almost 10 years. And then what happened is a few years ago, and I think most of you are aware of this, Microsoft kind of made a major relaunch of Dynamics NAV, where they introduced the role-centered client that you all know now, where they made the very strong integration of NAV with the Office family, where they made a lot of significant technology enhancements to the product, so like changing the architecture and kind of rebuilding the entire technology framework of NAV. And over the course of this change, they removed all external functionality, which we found actually provided us with a great window of opportunity, because out of the sudden some bare-bone functionality that was there in the past was missing with the newer versions of NAV. So what we did is we as a company started to invest building NAV expertise in the year 2012, where we had a lot of our developers being trained to develop with NAV, where we learned about the system. And the idea was that we should use our latest and brightest Gantt chart development tool to develop integrated add-ins for NAV. And we started with what we call the Visual Production Scheduler more than 2 years ago, which we since then significantly enhanced. So in the past, the old production schedule that had been in the Classic client was just a Microsoft feature, but today similar proposition is no longer one feature of one system of a giant company, but now it is a strategic product of a small German software company. So for us, it was really a strategic decision to build a second business line by taking our own tool and build something bespoke for NAV. And so we launched the Visual Production Scheduler 2 years ago, significantly enhanced it so that as of today, it has way more functionality than the Classic client production scheduler ever had. And then we started to also learn more about NAV and look into the other modules. And so a year ago, we launched a second product, which we call the Visual Job Scheduler, which helps clients to visualize, schedule, and control jobs, job tasks, planning lines, and also resources. And then half a year ago, we launched the third product, which is kind of the visual representation of the service dispatch board, so that allows you to allocate service orders to service technicians, or to assign a service technician to service order, depending on how you look at this. So 2 years after entering the market, we now have on offer a complete suite of visual scheduling add-ins for Dynamics NAV. And as we have been used to sell our products internationally, we from the very beginning started building an international reseller channel, and we are quite proud that now 2 years after we started this business, we kind of have presence in terms of resellers with whom we partnered and whom we trained on all 5 continents in more than 30 countries. And as I said, one of the trained and the specialized resellers that we have is ABC Computers, and I'm really happy that they now also invited us to talk to you guys and to present our products directly to you. And I think with this, this is actually enough PowerPoint and enough introduction, and I think we should have a look at the real stuff and look at Dynamics NAV. I will now use kind of the next 45 minutes to look at all the 3 products that we have that can help you to either plan and deal with production orders, production data, or with job data, and also with service data. I will do this one by one. I will most likely spend most time with the visual production scheduler, because I will use the visual production scheduler actually to explain some common functionality that we applied for all of the 3 add-ins. So kind of it is always common that our products live in the respective departmental menu. So when we want to do production planning, we go to the manufacturing module, we start planning, and then we added the visual production scheduler as a planning list item, and we can start it from here. And now what technically happened is just a standard NAV page opened. So I think you are all familiar with NAV pages typically. Let's look at the plan, production orders, and NAV page looks like this. You have the road center on the left, you have the page specific menu ribbon here on top, which you can customize and where you can make changes. And then you have a table that presents information most of the time from one underlying NAV table. So with our add-ins, technically it is exactly the same. We have the road center on the left, we have a page-specific menu bar here on top of the screen, and then other than showing you a table, we deliver you a graph, and this graph typically combines information from various tables into meaningful visual schedule. So again, this is a standard NAV page, and when I started this, the data did not leave NAV. Data stays in NAV. You don't have to install a separate database next to NAV to work with our product. We just take data out of the respective NAV tables. We keep them in memory. You can do drag and drop changes from here and then save the data back, and then automatically the NAV database gets updated. So again, this is also a page-specific action ribbon here, and we make a couple of suggestions what we think are good symbols and good functionality to put in an action tab related to a visual production scheduler. But of course, if you want to customize this, you can do so. There's all freedom to customize the outer part, because this is standard NAV. Here is the page, and on the page now, our add-in product lives and presents data to you in a graphical way. So the way of how the add-ins always are built, or of how our products always built, you have a kind of the tabular part on the left-hand side. You have the time scale on the top of the screen, and then you have a Gantt chart with bars representing activities here in the middle. So these bars here represent operations or production order. They can represent, for example, job planning lines, or they can represent service order allocations. And then common functionality is when I position the mouse here on the time scale, and I work with the mouse wheel, I can quickly change the resolution of the screen and zoom in and zoom out. So now I'm looking at a longer time frame, and from here, for example, if I'm interested to kind of more schedule the Wednesday the 3rd of February, I can drill down. Now I'm looking at data in a 2 hours interval, but I can drill down further down. So if you have very short operation, actually the maximum granularity we give to you is a 5 minutes interval, and this all happens seamless, and this is all common functionality for all the tools. So when we look now, this is kind of the maximum zooming out that I did, and you see that I'm looking a couple of days back from the work date and a couple of weeks into the future. This is what we call the planning horizon, and the planning horizon, they may vary from customer to customer, and even within customers we know that they can vary. So you can have people who are responsible for the rough planning, so they may want to look the next couple of weeks out, and then you may have people who are really responsible for the operational scheduling of this week, and maybe also only of the release production orders. So this means we can also define the planning horizon by user who works with the system, and so this is done from the setup menu, and this is true for all the 3 add-ins. So I'm still in the process of presenting common functionality. So from the setup menu, we can quickly define the planning horizon from the start date and the end date relative to the work date. So if I think I need to look maybe a week in the past and 4 weeks out, I can do this from here. I can say, okay, I quickly need to reload the data, and then I'm looking at the longer time frame from here. So this is common functionality. What is also common functionality is that we have this triangles here, and with these triangles we can also further drill down in the information. So what we have here actually with the visual production scheduler, we start this with the so-called production order view, where we look at our production orders sorted by their status. So we see the production orders, now we see which ones are planned, they are light blue, which are firm planned, they are dark blue, which ones are released, and then among them we see the single production orders and their respective lines. And here we see the operations from the production order, and we see the due date. And I'm pressing on this triangle, and this is again common functionality. We can drill down into the next kind of hierarchical level, and now we see kind of, when I click here, we see the routing of this production order, and we also see the respective work and machine centers that, given my routing, are responsible for carrying out these operations. What we also see, and also this is common for all of the add-ins, we now, after I expanded this, you see that we have this background pattern. This can be either gray or white, and when it is white, this always represents working time based on the underlying capacity calendar, or here on the underlying shift calendar, and when it is gray, this is non-working time. So we see here that actually in the assembly department, in the packing department, and packing table, we have a one shift setting. It's a one shift operation, whereas here in the painting department, with all its machine centers, we are in a two shift operation. And this is also reflected actually here on the bars. So you see that this last operation here starts on Thursday the 4th, and then finishes on Friday the 5th. But the networking time is way shorter. The networking time is only this blue area and this blue area, whereas here we don't work on this production or on this operation because we have non-working time here on the respective machine center. So I already said that when I started this, I loaded the data into memory, and that we don't have to install any additional database next to your NAV database to work with the data, which we feel is one of the advantages of having an add-in solution. The other advantage is that from the visual schedule, because it is integrated into NAV, we can make kind of shortcuts to standard NAV functionality. And again, this is standard functionality for all the three add-ins, so you will have the same functionality in the job scheduler and in the service scheduler. And with this, I mean, for example, that when I double-click on the production order card opens. And from here, I can drill down into routings or do whatever I need to do, which we think is really is a great advantage for you as a user, because when you work with NAV or when you implement NAV, you and your colleagues, you would get trained by ABC on every functionality you see here. So this is or will be your day-to-day tool, and you can continue to work in the environment that you are used to, or that you will get used to, with the help of the ABC folks, and get an additional functionality. But in order to work with this additional functionality, you actually don't have to learn anything new. We just provide you with a visual front end to the data and the data model that you have in NAV. And if you want to access standard NAV functionality, you can access it from here. So you don't have to get used to new functionality, new symbols, new menu ribbons, new forms. It will be 100% NAV standard, and this is what you're familiar with, or will become familiar with, when you hopefully install NAV in your operations. And then what we also have as a kind of specific chart in all three of our add-ins, and I will explain this in a second, is what you see on at the bottom of the screen, which we call the histogram, or the capacity load chart. Let's quickly look what this tells us, and let's quickly look how I set up this specific work center, which I call the assembly department. So I double click on this, and of course, like with the production order, the respective card opens. So now I have here my work center card for the assembly department, and I made a special setting here. So this work center has an own individual capacity of 3, which means there might be 3 workers, 3 whatever. There's a capacity of 3. And this is an individual capacity. This does not come from the underlying machine centers, but this is an own capacity of this work center. And this is 3, and the efficiency is 100%. And so this own capacity of 3, let's select this operation, is reflected here at the bottom of the screen in the related load capacity chart. So we have the assembly department chart here because I selected this operation here. And what we see here is that during non-working time, of course, there is no capacity, but during working time, I have an available capacity of 3. And here again. And then with these gray shades here, with these gray areas, I see the amount of work or the amount of production orders of production operations I have given to this specific work center at this specific point of time. So we see that on Tuesday morning we start with 1 production order, then we have 2, again 1, nothing to do here, and 1 in the afternoon, and then nothing to do towards the end of the shift. And this kind of chart also is available in all the 3 of the add-ins. And now what happens when I move an operation, actually here on the top of the screen, you see that this histogram at the bottom of the screen automatically updates, which means that when you make a change of the timing of an operation, you directly see the impact on the capacity load for this respective work and machine center. And so now I move this a little bit to the left, or I can move it a little bit to the right, and then you see that all the successors of this operation automatically move. And what you also see is now, and again, this is common functionality in all the 3 add-ins, you see this red border. And this red border indicates to you as a user that you have changed the data but not yet saved it back to NAV. So it allows you also to trial out things, to make a few changes. And once you're happy with the change, you can say, okay, let's save the data. Then we do a couple of plausibility checks, and these are all the checks that standard NAV also would do if you would change, for example, an operation on the respective card. I need to confirm this, and once we did the plausibility checks, I get the confirmation that everything had been saved, and now the red border is gone because now the data had been saved back into NAV. And so maybe we look at a different example now. Now we can use this histogram also to quickly see and understand if there are any kind of resource conflicts. Like, for example, we would have a resource conflict here on the packing table, with the packing table having a capacity of 1, and then we see here on the Tuesday that we're given 2 production orders to the packing table. The same is I think is true. Let's look at this from here. We have the drilling machine and the CNC machine, and you see that here on Tuesday the 9th of February I have a conflict on the drilling machine because obviously I seem to have given 2 operations to the drilling machine, although it can only handle one at a certain point of time. And so what you don't see actually from this chart, which gives you always the view on a single production order, and if you manage to finish it in time, but what you don't see here is the other operation with which this one competes for the free capacity on the drilling machine. And for this, we have a second view on the data, which we call the resource view. And I can switch now from the production order view to the resource view. And now I'm looking at the exact same data, but now I look at it by work and machine center. And remember, the conflict was on the 9th of February here, and it was on the drilling machine. And okay, now I see here that that the conflict here is between 2 planned production orders, so both are light blue, and this indicates that they are planned. So a way of sorting this out would be maybe to move this one further down here to the next day, and then all the successors will get moved. I still have a conflict here on the CNC machine, so maybe I need to move this one again to get this solved. So from here, I quickly see on one screen the load of my respective work and machine centers, and just hovering with the mouse over these lines, I also see these histograms, and these histograms also indicate me when there are some kind of capacity overloads, like we now see. Obviously, there are some with Mike Siemens. What we see also from here is actually, I think this chart can be used to kind of manage the load for the respective work and machine centers. But if we choose a resolution like this, actually a high degree of the screen is used by showing all these work-free times, because we have a weekend here, and then we have long shift breaks here, and another weekend here. And so especially with this chart, I'm really not interested in seeing the non-working time, but I'm interested in seeing the work time, because this is the time that I, as a planner, as a scheduler, I'm concerned about. And so we have the opportunity to hide the work-free periods, and with this, and again, this is common functionality in all the tools that we have, we can hide those work-free periods that are common to all work and machine centers. So, which means if we look here, we have this kind of area here, which is common to all work and machine centers, because this is kind of the night, whereas this work-free time, which is the second shift, is only work-free time for some of the work and machine centers, but it does not apply to others. So when I say hide work-free periods, we just hide those work-free periods that are common to all the machine and the work centers, because otherwise the picture will get biased. And then if I do this, the chart looks somehow like this. So now I see only those work-free times that are specific to some resource centers, or to some work centers and machine centers. And with this, I get a pretty good overview of what is happening in terms of capacity utilization in my work and machine centers. So far, all the changes I made to the data were moving these bars left and right. So so I moved it right to make it later, or I moved it left to let it start earlier. If I move this further right, by the way, I will get this red hatching, which indicates to me, hey, I'm now moving this past the due date of this operation. I still might want to do. I'm not. The tool does not prevent me from doing this. It just tells me, hey, you're moving it past the due date. Make sure that you want this. And if I now confirm this and save the data, then we would update the due date and have it the next day. But all these movements, these left and right movements, this is just the timing of the operations. But what I also can do is, if I have a scenario like this, where I have an overload at one machine center, and just assuming that I would have other machine centers that would be capable of doing the same job. So like here in my assembly department, I have Mike, Brian, and Linda, and I have an overload with Mike, but there is some free capacity with Brian and also with Linda. And so just assuming Brian and Linda could work on the same jobs like Mike does, then I can also change the routing of a production of an operation and move it from one machine center to another, or I could even move it from one work center to another, also depending on what your environment would allow. But this means I can make changes in the timing of an operation, so start earlier or finish later, or I can make a change to the de facto allocation, and so by this change the routing. We also here have, and this just as a kind of information, we have a histogram view, which we also have for the visual job schedule, so I most likely will not show it there, which gives you an overview, and maybe I show the work-free periods again, which gives you an overview of the expected capacity utilization for all work and machine centers. The other two views, the production order view and the resource views, they are interactive Gantt charts where you can make these drag and drop changes, whereas this is a static report who just tells you where you might have an overload to deal with. So for example, deciding for some extra hours on here, or if some capacity is unused for a longer period of time, where you also see where you might have room for cost measures. So this could be an area where you can think of cost savings if you have resources that you don't use for a long period of time. And again, this is now common functionality for all the three add-ins, and this is true for this view and for the other two views, and also for the other views that you will see in a minute with the other add-ins. You actually can print any graph that we give you. We have this print preview where our tool, based on the amount of data that is loaded into it, makes a suggestion of how to split this. But if you say, hey, I want all information on one page, then you can fit it to page and you get it on one page. Or if you want to customize the printout in terms of, for example, and this is only one example, there are more ways to customize the printout, but if you want to, for example, look at one particular week, then you can just select this particular week. You can apply this, fit it to page again, and then you have the expected capacity load based on the current production schedule for this selected week on one piece of paper, and you can print it or you can save it as a PDF and share with your colleagues. So let's get quickly back to the production order view, because there is one last element. So in terms of dealing with conflicts, we had the scenario that we might have a capacity overload, which we would see from the histogram. We had the scenario that when I move an operation past the due date, I get this red hatching. But another quite common scenario is that we have a production order planned like this, to start on the 8th of February and to be delivered on the 13th of February, and then the customer calls and asks if there's any chance that we can deliver earlier. So from hovering with the mouse over the operations and looking at the histogram, we could quickly check if for the respective operations we would have some free capacities in the needed work and machine centers. But and now in this case, it seems that we have some freedom to move it ahead in terms of capacity. But what we don't see from here is if you also have enough material on stock to start production earlier. And in order to answer this question, you can right-click on production order and then look at the availability of your items by the bill of material level. So this opens actually a new page. This again is standard NAV functionality, and from here we can look at the bill of material for your production order, and this touring bicycle and obviously a lean of parts. Let's focus on the high level information given here. So what we see here is we already have on stock a quantity of 140. The demand date is the 13th of February, and for this specific production order we need a quantity of 60. So obviously we can ship this, and we are able to ship 60 on the 13th. But now the question was, hey, can we deliver a couple of days earlier? So we want to check maybe if we can also deliver the same quantity on Wednesday. So I can change now here. I can do a simulation. I change the date, and now when I click in this white area, all these figures here automatically update. So now you see on the 10th of February, I still have a quantity available of 80. I would need 60, so I could also ship a couple of days earlier, and then I can assign the new demand at end close, and everything had been moved automatically to the left. So this is kind of a brief overview of the visual production scheduler. There are some more functionality in terms of how you can customize some of the behavior and also how you can build filters. But I just will skip this to save us some time to also look into the other add-ins. So let's go to NAV Jobs. And now I don't change it. let's just go to NAV Jobs and think about how NAV lets you deal with jobs. And I'm pretty sure that you've seen this before. So, and you can define your jobs. So you have the jobs overview, where let's see, on a job card, you define for what customer you're doing the job, how long it's going to take. You have some other accounting related information, and then what you really want to do is you define the structure of the job. And here in my case of a system implementation, I have a couple of phases. I have a conceptual phase, I have a planning phase, and then an execution phase. And planning phase again is split into a couple of sub-phases with a kickoff, and then I need to do a project plan, and so on and so forth. And then we have this job task lines to which you actually plan your resources and plan your consumption. And this is what you do with the job planning lines, where you say, okay, for the preparation of the internal kickoff, I need this resource on 3 consecutive days. Each day I need him 8 hours, and before I finish the preparation, I need Carl for another 4 hours on this last day. And exactly the same kind of hierarchy is what we build into the Visual Job Scheduler. So the Visual Job Scheduler is the visual representation of exactly this information, and again, it is integrated into NAV. It actually starts now with asking if you want to filter data, because especially when we think of a consulting firm or a professional services firm where you may have 100 employees and 10 project managers, then you as a project manager would only want to see the data from your from the projects that you manage and that you own. So you don't want to, most likely you don't want to see your colleagues' data. So with here, you can just filter on certain jobs. I don't do this right now because with my 5 or 6 jobs in here, it's okay to look at any data, all the data. So we can filter or we can't filter. And then the Visual Job Scheduler starts. Same principle, road center on the left, page-specific menu ribbon on top, with some of the functionality that you have seen before. And now here we look at the jobs. We sorted them. This is the jobs view. We sorted the jobs by their status, and the information we see here on the bar, again, shortcut to the job card is defined by the start date and the end date here from the job card. And then, like before, with pressing on the triangle, we can drill down into details here. Now we can drill down into the job planning lines. So we have the conceptual phase, and you saw we had the planning phase, with the planning phase being split into the kickoff. Let's quickly remove this. With the kickoff, where we have a preparation of the internal kickoff, and so on and so forth. We can change the resolution here again, and then we can drill down into the job planning lines that I showed you before, so that for the preparation of the internal kickoffs, we need at 3 consecutive days, we need Alan Jacobson, and then also we need Carl Simmons for 4 hours. So you see there are a lot of similarities. You see already at the bottom of the screen that when I hover with the mouse over a job planning line with resource allocation, that we see the respective histogram of this particular resource. What is a little bit different now is kind of how to read these bars. I make this a little bit bigger now again. So now we always span the bar across the entire day, and then with the white number in here, we indicate the amount of hours that had been assigned or that had been defined to happen for this specific job planning line by this resource on that particular day. So here we see 8 hours that we need Alan Jacobson, and here we see the 4 hours for which we need Carl on that day. And these 4 hours then, of course, get represented down here in the histogram, where we set up Carl's calendar in a way that he works 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. And now, if now for some reason the preparation of the internal kickoff is is delayed by 1 day, then If you would not work with the visual scheduler in NAV, you would have to update these 4 job planning lines. So you would need to update this job planning line changed today, and you would change this day, and you would change this day. So we actually feel that this is quite unhandy. So we have this bars on top here, which span the entire time frame of a job planning line, and so we can move that span the time frame of a job task, sorry for that, and then we can move the entire job task with the underlying job planning lines at once, to just avoid that you have to touch too many data when you just want to change one task by a couple of days. Now, what happened now is when we look at the information I have in here, I did a planning mistake, and this planning mistake is maybe because I'm stupid, but also because NAV did not prevent me from doing so. So now I moved the preparation of the internal kickoff actually past the internal kickoff, which we all know that in real life this is nonsense, but nevertheless NAV did not prevent me from doing so, because standard NAV does not know about dependencies between job tasks or job planning lines. Well, we all know that actually it should look like this. We have the preparation of the internal kickoff, and only when we are finished with the internal kickoff, with the preparation, then we can have the meeting. And so what we introduced as a visual item to the visual job scheduler is actually dependencies between job tasks or job planning lines, or job task and job planning lines, and you can create them by doing a right click in the right area and then change the mouse mode from a pointer mode to a link creation mode. And now you see that my mouse cursor changed. It is now this pencil, and with this pencil I just can draw a dependency and say, okay, this job task, the preparation of the internal kickoff, and this job task, the internal kickoff, they have a finish start relation. And now let's do it like this so that you see what happens. When I move the preparation of the internal kickoff to start next week, then the dependent job planning line, a job task line, and all the respective job planning lines moved at once. And now when I save the data, actually, let me do this like this. When I save the data, also this link will be saved. So again, you see this red border, which means I changed the data, not yet saved back. Same principle as before. I can save this. And now the information about this link actually is stored in my database. And then next time I open the visual job scheduler, I will see this link and I will see this dependency. And like with the visual production scheduler, again, we have a complementary view to the job view, where we not look at the jobs and their timing, but where we look at the resources and how busy they are. So from here, we see all my resources. We see and they come from resource planning. We see my resource groups. I have project managers, I have consultants, I have system engineers, and then I have 2 project managers, for example. And from here, I would see that on this 11th of March, I gave 2 8-hour tasks to Carl, whereas the other project manager seems to have nothing to do. So I can again quickly look from here what kind of jobs these are, and then if from there I come to the conclusion that also Steve would be able to work on one of them, then I just can change the allocation and balance the workload here. What you also see is, or what you might have noticed is, that there is this kind of red field with a 7 in there. And this actually always comes up in case that you use a specific type of resource, and this is what we call unassigned tasks. So I quickly double click on this so that you see the resource card. I have given this resource a specific prefix, and the ABC computers people know how to do this. And whenever this you give a resource this prefix, then this resource is regarded as a resource to deal with unassigned tasks. Because typically, especially in project planning, you not always want to assign a task, a job task or job planning line to an individual person, especially not when you're doing planning for a couple of weeks, for a couple of months out. Then you just want to do it like this. And let's go here from March, drill down, zoom into April, that you say, okay, I know I will have to work on these things in April, and I know that I will need a consultant for this, but I don't want to care right now if this will be Alan or David or Paul. I just know there will be a couple of tasks and a consultant has to take care, and so now I can give them to this resource unassigned task. Then here, when hovering with the mouse over the consultant area, I see the aggregated histogram, which comes from the 3 8 hours per day resources, Alan, David, and Paul that I have. So I have a capacity of 24 hours a day. So I see that although I did this rough planning, I will get no resource conflict. And then when times get closer to April, I actually can say, okay, Alan is going to take care of this and this, whereas this task should be done by Paul. Again, here is one for Alan, and maybe another one for Alan, or so on. And then I see that we only have 2 left, so that when I'm again don't see this line in here, I still see this information that there are unassigned tasks that at some point of time I have to deal with and to decide who is going to work on these. Last but not least, before concluding with the visual job scheduler, let's look for an example. Yeah, this maybe is a good example. We have here one job planning line where we said, okay, this activity starts on the 7th of March. We need Paul Little, but we need him 40 hours. So what we typically have, that we have all these small job planning lines with 4 hours, 8 hours a day, and what we had earlier with the preparation of the internal kickoff, where we needed Alan Jacobson on 3 consecutive days, each day 8 hours, actually let us create 3 job planning lines. And we feel that this can kind of quickly lead to a data explosion if you have to add a job planning line for every day that you work on a task, and especially if you have longer tasks, then this may lead to a situation where you just have too many data. And so in this case, we say, okay, create a job planning line, define the start date, and define the duration that it should take, 40 hours. And then, like in this case, we set up Paul Little and have set up Paul Little in a way that he also works 5 days a week, each day 8 hours. Then this automatically creates a bar that spans this 5 days and shows this 40 hours as an allocation. And then each day a consumption of 8 hours is taken into account within this chart, in this histogram. And then when I move this one, so for example that it starts on a Friday, then this bar automatically gets longer because he would not work on Saturday and Sunday on this task. So this is an overview of the visual job scheduler. We have heard about scenarios where partners and customers started to discuss taking job data, which is project planning data, out of NAV and moving it into Microsoft Project. So again, building a separate database, working with an outside of NAV tool. We feel that with the visual job scheduler, actually this should no longer be required, and that you can now with this plan and manage your jobs, your project, and your resource data within NAV. So let me quickly wrap up this session by looking at the visual service scheduler, which is a visual representation of the dispatch board that we have. in NAV, and which allows you to make drag and drop scheduling of service orders to the technicians. So again, you know now, and you're familiar with the principle, so I don't have to talk about this anymore. Let's see what we see here. Actually here, we have split the screen in 3 parts. We see the service schedule here in the middle of the screen, where again I see my resources coming from resource groups, coming from resource planning. I see my resources, and I see the service orders that already had been assigned to a particular resource at a particular day. At the bottom of the screen, I again see the histogram, which indicates me either on resource or on resource group level, the capacity load. And then here on the right hand side of the screen, let's make the schedule a little bit bigger, I see, and we will rename this shortly, we see the order backlog. So we see the service orders that not yet have been assigned to a service technician. So what we can do in here, of course, we can change the timing of service orders. So if we have an overlap here at Alan Jacobson, and if we can also work on this service order next day, I can move it to the next day. Or what we can say, if Alan calls from the customer and say, hey, look, this was planned to take 5 hours, but actually I will be on site with the client the entire day, so it should be 8 hours, then we can change the duration of the service order allocation. And again, what I can do, if, for example, David reports sick on this day, I can again move in service order allocation from one resource to another. And then what is possible, let's take this one here. You see now here my order backlog, which is sorted by status, and within the status by the response date as calculated by NAV. And now I have a service order that is due to be performed on the 4th of February. So I can just take it from here and move it into the service schedule. Then we do by a default a service order allocation of 4 hours, but again, you can change the timing, or you can move it, have it earlier, or move it to another person. So there are a couple of more functions here in the Visual Service Scheduler. For example, we can cancel the allocation, then it moves back again to the order backlog, saving the information that we planned that this should take 8 hours to work on. But I think with this, I can't go into all the details. So maybe we will have another session on the jobs and the service scheduler in the future. But for me, it was important that you get the general capability and the general pictures that you will be able to graphically maintain your service schedule and also allocate the unassigned service orders to a service technician, and also to manage on group level the capacity utilization. And with this, I'm open to get any question, and I'm looking forward to great discussion. So thank you very much for being with us here and for watching the presentation.
Great, thank you, Martin. We are running right up on our end time here, so we're going to open it up for questions if anybody has a question. While we're waiting to see, I'm just going to remind everyone that we do record all of our webcasts, so this webinar recording will be up on our website by the end of the day. Again, that's abc-computers.com. And Martin, I tell you what, you went over everything so well, it looks like we are not getting any questions typed in today.
Okay, then, but if folks reach out to you afterwards, then just let me know, and I will answer them by email.
Yes, absolutely, yep. Absolutely.
Cool.
So thank you everyone for attending. Martin, thank you so much for that presentation, and we hope to see everyone at our next webinar.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day.